You know, when you're scrolling on YouTube and you see a thumbnail and it's some controversial take and it immediately pisses you off, so you have to click and watch it? Well, here's an entire video of controversial horror takes. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick here from the Lost River Drive-In, and tonight I wanted to give you guys a video of some of my most controversial takes in the horror genre. Now, I can't remember if it was Cody Leach or Lee McCoy, Drum Dums, that did a video like this a few weeks back. I remember watching it and being like, man, I should do that because I have a ton of controversial opinions when it comes to horror. And if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that. So I'm just going to say right off the top, guys, this is completely my opinion. I am not saying I'm right. And if you disagree, I'm not saying you're wrong. This is just a space for me to vent about it and for you guys to comment down below and let me know how crazy you think I am. So without further ado, let's get into this. My first controversial horror take, and I want to start this one off juicy because I know it's going to immediately piss people off. Friday the 13th is overrated. Not just the original movie, I think the entire series. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I don't love some of these movies. I do. I love Friday the 13th Part 3. It's my favorite Friday the 13th film. The final chapter, Part 2. I even have a soft spot for 5. Everybody likes Jason Lives. So what am I saying? Well, we always elevate the big three. We've got Michael, Freddy, and Jason, and all three of them have earned their iconic status. But I just have never felt like Jason was on the same level. I don't know. And maybe it's just because of that first movie. That first movie is one of the weaker Friday the 13th movies, in my opinion. Again, I know it's a hugely controversial take, but that's the point of this video. Look, Jason's awesome. He's a freaking beast. He's a killing machine. He's damn near unstoppable, if not unstoppable. And he's gotten a Versus movie. Michael Myers don't have that. And I mean, look, there's a lot to say about Jason Voorhees to defend him. And this is nothing personal against the character. But I just think the series as a whole is a lot of middling movies that don't really have a lot of meat on the bone there. And part of that is also the MPAA absolutely ruined some of these movies in this series. Part 7, Part 8 are just chopped to bits because of the MPAA. Those movies would be so much better if we could have seen those kills for what they were actually intended to be. Instead, we just got these cutaways, bloodless, and kind of frantic at times kills that don't really play out well on screen. So, if you're a big Jason fan, like my buddy Christian, I totally get it. But it's never been in the top 3 for me. It never has been, and I don't think it ever will be. Again, no disrespect to Friday the 13th as a whole, but I just kind of find it overrated. My next controversial horror opinion is that Blumhouse isn't that bad. Now I know some of you are already furiously typing away to argue with me before even listening to what I have to say. And it's fine. That's the internet. But I went through this with Christian on the podcast a couple months ago, and then Justin and I just recently went over their entire filmography, and I think it's safe to say there's more decent to good than there is bad when it comes to the films that they've put out. And just based off of statistics, if the good outweighs the bad, you are just inherently decent, I guess. That's just how it works, right? We round up, we don't round down if it's over 51% or 50%. That's what I got with Blumhouse. Look, they've got some stinkers. There's no doubt about it. There's some movies that Blumhouse has put out that are absolutely terrible. And I get it. Jason Blum is always in the news. Anytime a new horror property is being shopped around or sought after, it's always Jason Blum. People get tired of hearing about this guy. People hear, and they have, honestly, some opinions about some of the movies he's put out. Strong opinions about, say, Halloween or The Exorcist, and it kind of colors their entire perception of Blumhouse. But Blumhouse has put out some really good horror movies over the years, and some of them, some of the better ones of the last 20 years. I think of the Sinister movies, first thing that come to mind for me. And I just think that a lot of people really overreact when they hear the name Blumhouse. Again, I get it. It's the popular thing to hate on right now. But as I said on a live stream recently, is that really Blumhouse's fault? It's not really Blumhouse's fault that they've cornered the market. Nobody else seems to be wanting to do it. A24 does, and they're a more modest studio, so they do what they can. But none of these other major players are really doing much. So I guess it's bad that Blum wants to make horror movies? I don't know. But I'm not trying to tell you if you love or hate some Blumhouse movies, you're right or wrong. My next controversial take is, I've said this before, I'll say it again. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 really isn't that bad. If anything, I'd actually say it's decent. Look, there's a lot of nostalgia for that series and for that character, specifically played by Robert Englund. So they were already up against it when they were remaking this movie. Then you add in Platinum Dunes and Michael Bay, and everybody immediately gets acid reflux. Now, again, you're allowed to have your opinions on it. That's totally fine. But this movie gets unfairly shit on. And quite frankly, I'm just getting sick of hearing it. Look, I'll take 15 Nightmare on Elm Street 2010s if it means that Freddy still lives on the big screen, because we haven't seen anything in a decade and a half. And it's kind of getting to a point where I am fiending for more Freddy Krueger. Look, Jackie Earle Haley was fine in the role. A lot of the issues people have with the movie are absolutely fair. The CGI at times with Freddy specifically is not good. He looks like a burnt cat. Rooney Mara, look, she's a great actress. She did not give a shit at all about this role. She gave almost nothing to it. She might as well not be the lead. Kyle Gallner was really good in this movie as Quentin. I just choose to think of him as the lead, and she's like his sidekick. And people really didn't like some of the dialogue and some of the changing of the lore, basically making Freddy Krueger explicitly a child predator rather than a child murderer. Now, although that was the original intent and it's always been hinted at, this movie called it out plainly. But the biggest issue I see a lot of people have is them being too chicken shit to deliver on the twist that they were actually setting up, that Freddy Krueger was innocent. Having said all of that, I still think the good to decent outweighs the bad in this movie. Again, I like Kyle Gallner. I think Jackie Earle Haley does really well. I think there's some great dream sequences in this movie. The dream world with CGI is freaking awesome. There's some great one-liners, great kills. I love the music. I love the aesthetic. Samuel Bayer really brought his music video influence into this movie. Whether it be the color palette or the editing, I just really like this movie aesthetically. It plays really well and it's fun to watch. And above all else, this movie, I tend to look at it like it convinced me for almost the entire runtime that they were going to pull the rug out from under us. And of course, I was mad about it. I was absolutely mad when they were too chicken shit to deliver on it. Having said that, though, it was nice to at least ponder that for a while, that, oh my God, like, what if Freddy was innocent? I still think they should have delivered on it, but it was a cool build-up to that point. Guys, this movie really, really is fine at worst. Like, I think it's just fine. Some people, I think, that hate this movie simply hate it because it's not Robert, and it's a lot of CGI, and you're just never going to be able to convince them that the movie is fine. And that's all right. I get that. But the movie really is fine, and I would take this 100 times over that abominable 2009 Friday the 13th. I said what I said. Now, up to this point, a lot of you guys are probably pissed off. And guess what? That's the point of this video. This is a therapy session for me to get some of my controversial takes off my chest. So I'm going to hit you with another zinger. Dr. Sleep is better than The Shining. Period. And again, people furiously typing away. And again, this is my opinion. I cannot objectively say it's better. But in my opinion, why do I think Dr. Sleep is better? Well, Cliff Notes version, Dr. Sleep actually gives us the ending that The Shining was always leading to and the book delivered on, that The Shining didn't, because Kubrick wanted to put his own flair and his own touch to the movie. I totally understand that. But that makes the arc of Danny Torrance so powerful. We see Danny Torrance. We get character development from this character that we never got from Jack in The Shining. Period. Point blank. Jack, we're led to believe from the beginning, oh, he's a recovering alcoholic and he's a good person and this place is going to drive him insane. It's going to drive him mad. From the very first scene that Jack Torrance is on screen, he's a freaking asshole. Like, you just get the vibe that this guy is already crazy. So there's no real descent into madness for me. I just think the guy's a dick from the beginning. Whereas in Dr. Sleep, we see Danny as a child with the trauma that he's dealing with, learning to overcome it, then succumbing to alcoholism and going down a path like his dad, then coming out of it and leading a good life, and then ending up back at the Overlook and succumbing to what his father did, but ending it all, ending the Overlook, saving Abra, saving himself, and saving anybody else throughout the rest of time from the Overlook Hotel and the ghosts and the demons and whatever the hell you want to call it that take place there, that inhabit that place. That character arc for Danny is so awesome. Also, you get an incredible villain with Rose the Hat, which we didn't really have a villain in The Shining aside from the Overlook itself. Now we have a villain. We also have the Overlook, looking just as great as it did in The Shining. Like, they never missed a beat with that between that movie and Dr. Sleep. There's so much about this movie that I just feel like it is superior storytelling. I feel like the fact that you don't get to the Overlook till the very end of this movie, yet you're still engaged in what's happening, and at multiple points you are offended and scared and freaked out before you even get to the nostalgia plays, that's awesome. That's a sign of a good movie. Mike Flanagan is a freaking maestro, and Dr. Sleep, in my opinion, is better than The Shining. And this will be my last controversial take, simply just because I'm sure I have pissed a lot of people off. Was not my intention. I just wanted to get this off my chest, and I wanted to start a conversation. But the last take is, Don Mancini needs to let go of the Child's Play franchise. For good. Look, respect the man. I absolutely respect the man for everything he's done for the series. And there are some great movies in this series that are his creation. I look no further than Curse of Chucky, a movie that had no right being as good as it was. I loved that film. It's in my top 3 Child's Play movies. Don Mancini's hand in the franchise really got heavy starting with Child's Play 2. It's always a common misconception that he created this. He's the guy from the beginning. No, he was a part of the first movie. He was not the creator of this. He does not get the credit for that first movie. And as the years have gone on, I feel like Don Mancini can't help himself. And he's perverted this entire franchise into this wild, wacky, weird, over-the-top series that just at times is incoherent and hard to follow. Now, yes, Chucky is not meant to be taken over seriously. But there's a line to walk. Bride of Chucky is not an overly serious movie, but it's great. Curse of Chucky is not an overly serious movie, but it's great. Season 1 of the Chucky TV series isn't overly serious, but it's pretty good. Don Mancini has hits, and once he gets a hit, he makes contact, and then the next swing he's swinging for the fences, and he ends up hitting a foul ball 30 feet in behind him. You know, it's just, whether it's Cult of Chucky that I felt like was a complete misfire. Seed of Chucky I know has its fans, but it is just, to go from Bride to Seed was such a tonal shift. It's just like, whoa. And then Season 2 of Chucky. I have not watched Season 3. Season 2 really, really burned me out on it. And that was the point where I was like, look, Don, I think it's time. And even if you like Season 3 of Chucky, you guys know Don's track record. Decent, bad, decent, bad. If you like Season 3, well, guess what? If they get a Season 4, it's probably going to be like Season 2 and not be very good. And I just don't want to see that for Chucky. I want Chucky to come back to the big screen, to not be relegated to the small screen, and have to wonder after every season is over, oh, are they going to get renewed because the ratings weren't that great, because Don Mancini decided to go off the rails? Look, no disrespect to Don. Don, you are a big reason why Chucky is as popular as he is today. And I love the passion that Don Mancini has for this franchise and mostly everything he's brought to it. But there comes a time when it's time to say enough is enough. And I just think that enough is enough. I liked the reboot in 2019 and I would have liked to have seen a sequel for that. And the director of the remake said a sequel wasn't going to happen because Chucky was moving forward with the TV series on USA. And that's where the studio wanted Chucky to go. So MGM and Orion didn't really have much of an interest in actually moving forward with a sequel because they thought no one would care, which is funny because ironically now looking back on it, not a lot of people have cared about the TV series and it has waned in popularity as it's gone on and they barely got greenlit for a season 3, but I digress. I rest my case on that one. I hope I didn't piss any of you guys off too much with some of these takes. Look, if you're not new to my channel, you know these takes. Like, you've heard these takes many times from me, whether it's in live streams or on the podcast or in other videos. So none of this was groundbreaking to you. If you're new to me, you're probably freaking pissed and you think I'm insane. But guess what? I want to start a conversation. So comment down below, guys. Let me know if I'm crazy. Also, tell me some controversial takes that you have. I want to hear some of the ones you've got because I know as horror fans, we all have some. This is the space to unload. Unload down below in the comment section. Please leave a like on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.